The Super Z has 38mm stanchions. It's the latest and greatest from MARZOCCHI. It's an aggressive, progressive freeride fork. The Z is a direct jab at the RockShox Zeb. The Super Z is rocking the Grip X damper, the latest and greatest from your favorite Fox. Now, this fork has such a progressive air spring, I'm running it wide open. So the question in this video, guys, is 38mm stanchions really needed? Or is the Baby Z or the Z1 here, with its reinforced head crown, actually the better bet? Out of the box, it is not up to date for riding enduro. It comes with this underwhelming rail damper that just kind of falls apart on aggressive terrain. So I went ahead and I upgraded the Baby Z to a Grip 2 damper, added 180mm air spring that did fully convert this to an enduro fork. But the saga doesn't end there. The Z1 air spring is incredibly hard to tune. It is like too linear. So basically, I had to get my Shockwiz out of retirement, source some parts for it, and put it on the fork to get it set up right. And welcome to the only product that RockShox supports for more than 5 years. You can rebuild these if they don't turn on. The Super Z and its 38mm stanchions was a completely opposite story. You pull this fork out of the box and it is just ready to go, with the modern up-to-date damper and a progressive air spring that makes setting it up incredibly easy. So we're definitely giving 3 points to the Super Z because it's super easy to set up. To be fair to the Baby Z, it costs $600 out of the box. A new damper at jensenusa.com costs about $300, bringing your total to $900. So with the Super Z, you're basically paying the latest and greatest tax at $1,000 for this new Grip X damper. Midday, when I was swapping forks, it just absolutely started raining. So during Baby Z's run, it turned into an absolute mud pie. So here's the setup. We have a tech black trail full of chunky rocks and challenginger terrain, followed by a super fun, easy blue flow trail at the bottom. A perfect mix of both styles of riding. So a 38mm stanchion fork will be compromised on the climb. It weighs more, adding more mass to your bike. Can you feel it through a chundery rock garden? Absolutely no. And to be honest, you can't even really feel the extra pound or 10 ounces, whatever the weight difference is. But the reality is, most of mountain biking is this: climbing, transfer stages, boring cross-country trails, and a 36mm stanchion fork kinda does spice up boringer trails. As soon as the speeds increase, the 38 is fun, and the Super Z is a super progressive fork, meaning it's hard to bottom out, so it ramps up towards the end of the stroke, allowing you to kinda get some extra pop out of it. So taking it into the chunky rock gardens, the progressive nature of the Super Z is not ideal. It can kind of deflect and bounce off of rocks, giving you additional arm pump and not the best traction. It's so progressive, in fact, I have the high speed compression in the wide open setting with 0 tokens. This trail is the definition of variety pack. It goes from easy to smooth to side hits to nasty rock gardens and square edged hits. So the Super Z overall on this trail is pretty excellent. Only the nastiest of nasty parts was the fork kind of deflecting offline, giving me arm pump and not the funnest. Whenever it's smooth like this, awesome. Now the 38mm stanchion fork corners really good, comparing it to the Baby Z. And cornering is definitely not my strongest area of riding, so 3 points again to the Super Z. Now a few months ago, I was making videos on RockShox and I could not figure out why everything they make has a progressive air spring like the Super Z. And I think I may have figured out why. So what a super progressive air spring does, it gives the fork de facto mid-stroke support, hiding a bad damper. Do I think the Grip X damper is a bad damper? Absolutely not. But I can't for sure say it's better than the Grip 2 because it basically stands up in the shallow part of the travel because of the air spring. In the front of the video, I introduced the Super Z as a modern, aggressive, progressive freeride fork straight out of the marketing. So let's test it out on some baby blue flow trails and see how she does. Now I don't have the talent to do Red Bull Rampage, and that's probably what this fork was made to do, but the byproduct of being so progressive is it jumps really good. And I suck at jumping, and I can use all the help I can. So that's why this is one of my favorite forks of all times. Being in the shallow part of the travel will help you corner. That's another great aspect of this fork. You're always in that shallowest part of the travel. Now depending on the day, some days I can jump decent, some days I'm not very decent. But with the Super Z, I'm always on the more decent side, because I can push into the bike and get nice pop. When things are smooth, the Super Z really shows its good stars. When a product first comes out, it's hard to say if it's excellent because there's too much hype, FOMO, and marketing around it. If Fox's track record of forks is any indicator of the Super Z, this is an excellent fork. Because Baby Z, the Z1, has a damper from 2019 that still rivals any other damper from any other brand 5 years after its launch. It's Baby Z or Z1's turn on that same trail, same day, and it's about to rain like crazy. So I'm not gonna lie, the M Arch is super cool, but looking down on my bike, the 36 feels really flimsy. The Z1 features a polar opposite air spring of the Super Z. It is extremely linear. Like I told you earlier, I had to put the shock wizard on it because I was having a hard time building up the perfect amount of progression. Maybe a week after I filmed this video, this shock came out from MARZOCCHI, and it pairs up perfectly to your Z1 fork. Now it's a Fox DPS inline shock for mellow trail riding, and nothing wrong with that. But we need to know that the Z1 has now been downgraded to the downcountry department. And I'm trying to turn it into an enduro fork, so effectively I'm trying to put mud tires on my minivan. All the modifications on the Z1 are completely unproven. So I knew it was going to take a couple hours to get this fork dialed in, and I had the shock wizard on there because I was trying to speed things up. So after a couple test runs of adding compression and an extra token in the Z1, I was confident enough to head to the top of the hill. So the Z1, it's a super lively fork. Like, you can push through all the travel. At this point I have 2 tokens and about 100 PSI and a whole bunch of high speed compression added. And if you're familiar with that, that is a lot of bottom out control, and I can still reach the bottom of the fork when jumping on pavement. 3 points given to the Z1 or the Baby Z because it is a lively, fun fork. You can push all the way through the travel basically at will. So I'm curious how it's going to do when I throw it into the rock garden. It is extremely stiff, but it has this weird characteristic in the corner. I don't know how to explain it, and I'm currently trying to fix it because this fork doesn't corner very good. So we're going to give it 2 points for being extremely stiff. So this is what mountain biking usually becomes: boring, simple trail riding. The Z1 definitely steers better at slower speeds. It's an excellent trail fork, and it definitely climbs better. Like on this route here, I got hung up on the 38 and put my foot down. Now if you remember on the Super Z, as soon as things got faster, it just felt composed and better. The E-optimized stiffer 36 chassis, that doesn't really translate. It doesn't feel quite as stable at high speed when you're hitting the chunk. Now it feels just as stiff, but not as good at high speed. It's hard to explain. The steering maintains its kind of jittery, fast response rate. I don't know how to explain it at this point. This section of trail is the only section that I didn't love the Super Z because it's so progressive it basically bounced me offline. The Baby Z or the Z1 is the polar opposite. It's an absolute plush bucket that just murders technical slow speed rock gardens, so it definitely gets 3 points for the technical riding. This trail is the absolute variety pack. It's got slow speed technical riding, high speed technical riding, side hits, and I've never met anyone who said it was fun. But it's an excellent trail to test suspension because of that variety. So looking at the package of the Z1 on this trail, it does fairly good at everything. It does excel at slower speeds. I found, personally, it didn't corner very good, maybe because of the reinforced head crown. But there was one massive issue I did find on the Z1. So at high speed, straight into rock gardens, it's almost too stiff. I want you to watch the fork on this section. The Z1 e-bike chassis is like too stiff. It is so rigid, it just does not move. I think it's detrimental to its performance at high speed on square sections of trail. So now it's time to test the Z1 on some blue flow trails. And it's quite the mud pie, so I'll have to do some limited riding to not shred the trails up. The Z1 has a polar opposite air spring of the Super Z. It's extremely linear, meaning it can get to the bottom of the travel without even trying. You can pull it back out of the travel and give it some synthetic pop, and it doesn't jump half bad. But once again, it doesn't corner very good. That overly stiff head crown feels like it understeers, like it doesn't steer enough, and I wasn't very confident. Every time I got to a corner, I was like, man, I am not confident here. Full disclaimer, I'm not the best rider. Marzocchi could put 10 pro athletes on this fork and say it corners great. I'm just giving you the average guy experience here. There's about half a dozen setup things I could do to fix the understeer, from raising the handlebars to different stem length to low speed compression. The real difference in these two forks lies in the character of their air spring. The Grip 2, the Grip X, they're very similar. The Z1 is a super plush bucket. Very linear air spring, easy to press into the travel. This excels at low speed, technical, more natural hiking style trails. When we look at the Super Z, it has a super progressive air spring that's hard to bottom out. This excels at man-made, smooth, pop, jump, flow kind of trails. So just make sure you get the right air spring for your character of bike and riding. When you stack both forks on top of each other, they look virtually identical. So 36 to 38 millimeter stanchions really doesn't seem like that much, but it definitely feels like that much. The Z1 has a 180 millimeter air spring, and the Super Z has 170. Their axle to crowns are virtually identical. So the Super Z does have a 10 millimeter longer axle to crown measurement. I was kind of shocked by that, but maybe that's to accommodate 190 millimeter air spring in the Super Z. If you have any input about the understeer, please comment and help me out, because I do not know everything. But you gotta click this video on your screen to go Fox 38 versus EXT era, because it was a completely same story. Oh yeah, and right here, the thickness of the head crown on the Z1 and the Super Z is identical. There's the reinforcement.